You ever find yourself just mentally stuck? Maybe replaying some mistake over and over, or thinking about an opportunity you missed.
Oh, absolutely. Or even the flip side, right?
Right.
Reliving some past glory.
Exactly. Something that was great, but it's gone now. It's such a human thing, that pull to look back.
It really is. And, while looking back to reflect can be useful, Miguel and Esther do Conesa, in this text we're looking at the danger of looking back. They explore how dangerous that backward look can actually become.
Yeah, that's a really key distinction. So today we're doing a deep dive into this material. Our mission really is to unpack their arguments, the examples they use.
And explore these different ways that focusing too much on the past can, block your progress, stop you from finding fulfillment.
Right. And it's not just about avoiding the negatives, is it? It's about understanding this path forward. They talk about this conquering vision.
Exactly. And it's worth mentioning right up front that this material comes from a specific viewpoint. It's inspirational, faith-based. So the insights are rooted in spiritual ideas, biblical stories.
Okay. And we'll explore those ideas to really get the message they're trying to convey and how it might apply to you.
Definitely.
So let's dive into this core problem first. They call it a danger. How do they actually define looking back? Why is it so risky?
Well, they define it pretty broadly as longing for what left behind. And what's really interesting is that it's not just like the obviously bad stuff, regrets, defeats, betrayals, all that.
Which you'd expect, yeah.
Right. But crucially, they also include the positive stuff.
Wait, really? Even the good things, like successes, great experiences, wins, why would those be dangerous?
Because, and this is their main point here, even those things are gone. They argue that holding on to even really good memories can stop you from seeing what's right here, right now, here now, with its own challenges, its own purposes.
Ah, okay. So the past, good or bad, can kind of trap you in that moment, keep you from moving on.
That's the idea. It fixes you, prevents you from seeing new opportunities ahead.
That actually makes a lot of sense when you put it like that. They use some pretty powerful biblical examples to illustrate this, don't they? Lot's wife comes to mind immediately.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge one for them. They talk about Genesis 19, where she looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt.
Such a vivid image.
It really is. And the authors suggest it could have been fear or maybe curiosity, sadness, nostalgia for the city. But the key point they draw is that the act itself, looking back, led to her being completely immobilized.
Like literally frozen, a metaphor for getting stuck.
Exactly. Stuck because she couldn't let go of the past, whether out of fear or longing. It stopped her from moving into the new reality.
And it wasn't just individuals, right? They talk about whole groups getting stuck, too. The Israelites in the desert, that's a big one.
A major example. The text says they walked in the desert for 40 years because they wanted to return back. It's kind of mind-boggling, isn't it?
It really is. Preferring, as the text puts it, slavery and the abuse in Egypt over trusting for something better.
Yeah. The authors are very direct here. Critics and the rebellion against God bring stagnation. So looking back, complaining, refusing to move forward.
It leads to being stuck, immobilized, stopped in the same place, unable to reach for what's next.
That's the consequence they highlight.
Yeah.
You can't extend the hand to reach what you have in front of you.
So what's the counter message then? If looking back is so dangerous, how do they suggest we break free?
Well, this is central to their whole argument. God doesn't move his people just to bring them back. God always has something better ahead.
Okay, so divine purpose is always forward moving.
Always forward.
Yeah.
Which brings us to this idea of adopting a conquering vision.
Mm-hmm.
For them, that vision only looks forward.
They really emphasize that the conquering vision is always forward. Does that mean the past is just useless? Should we just forget it?
Not quite forget it, but see it differently. The text says, what happened? Well, it had its influence in you. Maybe you learned something, maybe you overcame something great. If you didn't, well, it is gone.
So the past is for learning.
Exactly. It's there to learn and experience, and that'll give us the wisdom to conquer in the future. You take the lesson, the wisdom, but you don't live in the past event.
It's fuel for the future, not an anchor.
Precisely. It's a foundation for wisdom, not a cage of regret or nostalgia.
And they offer some pretty powerful affirmations to help fuel that forward focus, don't they?
They do. Two big ones they quote are, for the one that believes everything is possible.
That's a strong statement.
And also, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthened me. These really point to a mindset shift towards potential and capability.
Yeah, a sense of limitless possibility. They connect this to the idea of a new life, right? Like a completely fresh start.
Yes, often understood in their context as starting with Christ. And the warning is pretty stark. If you look back thinking about returning to the old ways, you risk falling back into what they call a spiritual death toll.
A setback into powerlessness.
Something like that. A step back towards death and darkness, metaphorically speaking. Instead, this new life means belonging to something lasting, a kingdom that remains forever.
So the call is to actively cultivate thoughts of conquest, of reaching ahead no matter what challenges you face, like illness or money problems or family issues.
Exactly. Let us always have thoughts of conquest in our minds and never looking back, even when things are tough.
That takes real determination, and it seems like faith, and even speaking that faith, is critical here.
Absolutely critical. They reference Hebrews,
Yeah.
without faith it is impossible to please God, and they challenge you, the listener, not to settle for less, not for leftovers or with the crumbs of the table.
Don't accept limitations.
Right. And to make that faith solid, firm, they say it's crucial that we speak what God says. They use Abraham as an example. He spoke God's promise, not his own doubts about his age or body.
So it's about aligning your words with that belief.
Yes. The message is really, believe and you will see. Your words, your declarations shape your reality.
They have that story about the woman with the flow of blood, which is just such a powerful illustration of this.
It really is. I mean, she'd been suffering for 12 years. But the text points out she did not look at her condition she had for 12 years before.
She didn't dwell on the problem.
No. If she had thought about it and talked about it, the text suggests she would not have advanced and stopped. She wouldn't have reached Jesus. Instead.
She looked forward, saw the solution.
Exactly. She looked forward, saw the solution in Jesus. She just went forward and said, if I touch it, I get well. Her focus was entirely future-oriented on the solution, not the long history of the problem.
It's like that runner analogy they use. A runner always looks at the finish line, right?
Right. They always visualize the goal. Looking back would just slow them down, make them stumble, maybe even fall.
So keep your eyes on the prize. Continue forward. It seems the idea isn't to erase the past, but to truly let it be past.
That's it perfectly. The text puts it plainly. The past is only remembered as teaching lessons to continue forward.
Lessons, not a place to live.
Exactly. And the example of Nehemiah fits here. When his people were under attack, what did he tell them? Remember the Lord and look to the future.
Focus on the hope, the resource God. In this case, not the enemy.
Yeah. The authors suggest the enemy, which could be disease, past failures, troubles, whatever, wants to keep your attention fixed on the problem, on the opposition.
To keep you stuck looking at the obstacle.
Right. But God, they argue, wants to do a new thing. They bring in those powerful verses from Ezekiel and Isaiah.
I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you.
And, behold, I will do a new thing. I will even make a road in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. These promise radical transformation, suggesting the past doesn't dictate what's next.
Which makes their point about the Israelites asking for idols even more pointed, doesn't it?
It really does. Back in Exodus, Moses is delayed, and they immediately want to go back to Egyptian ways, asking Aaron to make us gods.
Even after seeing the Red Sea part.
Incredible, isn't it? The authors say they were tied to the past even when they were already free, because they did not want to change their mentality.
Wow. So freedom isn't just external, it's internal. A change of mindset.
That seems to be the core idea. Even when circumstances change, if the mindset stays stuck in the past, you're not truly free.
Which ties right into that concept of being a new creature.
Exactly. They quote 2 Corinthians 5:12. Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new.
All things become new.
Yeah. The authors are quite emphatic. If you truly embrace this new reality, this new identity, then we will not go back to that old life of the past, even if things look different now. They even say, our memory is not valid before God.
Meaning our past mistakes or identities don't define us in this new context.
That's the implication. God throws away our past, they write, because our past has nothing to do with what God wants to do with us in the future. It's a radical break.
Okay, so it's a complete release from past limitations. This brings us to the actual journey forward then. How do time, vision, and alignment fit in? They mention time walks ahead. What's that about?
It's about recognizing a sort of rhythm, a divine timing perhaps. They explain there's a set time for everything, using examples like David or Joseph, who had distinct phases or appointed times in their lives.
Right. And people get frustrated waiting for things, don't they?
Yeah, that's a big point. Frustrated people are those who say, I have been waiting, and the promised thing does not come. They get stuck looking at what hasn't happened yet.
Focused on the lack, the delay.
Exactly. But the text suggests the only productive way to look back is with gratitude, to see what God has done for us as proof that He is faithful, even if the timing isn't what we expected.
Use the past to fuel faith for the future, not doubt.
Precisely. And this connects to that story about the pool of Bethesda.
Ah, yeah, the man waiting by the pool for years.
Right. In John 5, you have this pool where people believed an angel stirred the water, and the first one in got healed. So you had all these people just waiting, focused entirely on this old ritual, this past method.
Totally blind, the text says, of what could be happening around them.
Because their focus was locked onto that one specific way. Then Jesus shows up, finds a man who's been sick for 38 years, and asks him point blank, do you want to be healthy?
And the man just gives excuses, right, about needing someone to help him into the pool after it's stirred. He misses the point entirely.
Totally misses it.
Okay.
The authors state the core issue. That was a great problem. They did not know Jesus. They imply his simple yes could have changed everything.
He was stuck in the process, the old way, the past condition. Couldn't see the immediate solution right there.
Exactly. His vision was fixed backwards on the limitations and the old method, which really underscores how vital our mindset and even our words are.
Right, that section, growing in faith. It says we need to change the paralyzing forces of fear.
Yes, and they use that really powerful example from the book, Think Big, the neurosurgeon.
Oh yeah, Ben Carson, his mother told him.
His mother, despite their incredibly difficult circumstances, poor, abandoned, she constantly told him, you are going to be the best of all. Those words, that beliefs spoken over him, helped shape his reality.
It reprogrammed his thinking, essentially.
That's the idea. The authors state it clearly. What they say to us negative paralyzes us, but faith will always move us forward. Positive declarations have power.
It's about the narrative you accept and create. And they also talk about starting from difficult places, right? A jump from the hidden place.
Yeah, using David in the cave of Adullam. Remember, 1 Samuel says all the distressed, indebted, discontented people gathered around him there. A cave, a place of hiding, of weakness.
Not exactly a power base.
Not at all. But it became the starting point for his leadership. It shows transformation can begin anywhere, turning the weak into strong. The call is to come out of the cave, adopt an attitude of overcomers.
Take that step of faith, even from a low point.
Exactly. That step begins the process of seeing the sovereign will of God fulfilled, move out of confinement into purpose.
So bringing it all together, what does achieving a successful end look like according to this text? Is it just about positive thinking?
It's deeper than just positive thinking. It's about alignment. They quote Isaiah again, saying God declares the end from the beginning.
Meaning the successful outcome is already envisioned by God.
That's their interpretation. Yeah. God has a successful ending and victory from the beginning. The key for us, then, is to align your thoughts with his thoughts.
Get your perspective in line with that bigger, successful vision.
Right, because if you take your thoughts and beliefs to another side, then the result will be another. So renewing your mind, your understanding, is vital for transformation.
But there's a catch, isn't there? A warning about mixing things up.
A very important one. They warn strongly against taking something new, something meant to renew your mind, which they'd see as coming from God's Spirit, and mixing it with an experience or event of the past.
Why is that bad?
Because, they argue, it introduces a carnal mind, which sounds intense, but they essentially mean a limited, purely human perspective based on past experiences, rather than the higher, faith-filled perspective. Mixing the two dilutes the potential.
Ah, okay. So you can't bring old baggage, old ways of thinking into the new possibility God offers.
That's the crux of it. You have to choose, walk in the Spirit, which means seeing things from God's perspective, focusing on the possibilities rather than in the flesh, the limited human viewpoint often shaped by past failures or fears.
And that choice, they say, leads to a fundamentally different kind of life.
Yes, a glorious life, manifesting positive character, fruit of the Spirit, and allowing, in their view, for God's Spirit to work, leading to supernatural things. It all comes back to that forward-looking, faith-aligned mindset.
Wow. That's quite a deep dive into the danger of looking back. The message is incredibly consistent, isn't it? Constant forward motion, letting go of the past, good or bad, and choosing a new mindset for new results.
That really is a powerful call to action. To consciously choose where you place your focus. Let the past teach you, sure, but don't let it define or limit you. Focus ahead.
So for you listening, maybe take a moment to think. Is there a specific past, a regret, a success, and an old identity that you might be maybe unintentionally dragging into your now?
Yeah, something that might be hindering that new thing waiting for you.
How might really actively aligning your thoughts, your vision with that forward-looking perspective, how might that change things for you starting right now?